Hey y'all. So, as I'm sure we all know, Nintendo is raising the base price of most of their games to $80. And a lot of other games are following suit. A lot of other companies are following suit. And I wanted to share my 2 cents on this because I feel like there's been a lot of really divisive takes on this, and a lot of people who are defending Nintendo, a lot of people who are really pissed off at Nintendo. And as someone who doesn't play a lot of Nintendo games, this does not impact me particularly. And I also, interesting take, I don't buy new games very often, but I think it's still worth talking about since, I don't know, developers just raising prices for the sake of raising prices is kind of stupid. I mean, we all know that like they don't have to do this. They're just choosing to, the ones that are. It's not like these companies are strapped for cash or really need the extra money. They're just doing this for profit. That's what business is. As a business major, it's very clear to see that they're not like, this isn't going to involve the improvement of the gaming industry by, oh well, now we have more money so we can buy, we can get more people to work on our projects, and they're going to look so much better and games are going to come out quicker. No, they're just raising the prices to make up for the fact that things are getting a little bit more expensive, especially for them, and they can. At the end of the day, they just, if people will buy their games for $100, then they're going to sell the game for $100. It doesn't make any other sense for them otherwise. And I feel like, while yes, it's fair of them, I guess, to raise the prices like they are, I'd also say that what it's going to do is cause a potentially really good windfall for smaller indie games, or like games that don't cost $100 to buy but instead only cost $15 to $20. Those have been, there's a game, it's the Stickman fighting game I recently got. I have had more fun with that than I have with some of my like $60 to $70 games in a long time. Minecraft is a really good example of this. This game costs what, 20-30 bucks? I think I bought my copy of it for like $7, 10-15 years ago. It's a game that really isn't that expensive, and yet they've been updating it and supporting it for years. I mean, what a value proposition. This is a great game for the money, and that's why so many people go back to it and keep playing it, or like buy extra copies. When I need another copy of Minecraft, I don't moan and complain about the fact I'm gonna have to spend an extra 20 bucks. I just do it because I've gotten way more worth out of this game than the, maybe 100 bucks I've given it over the last 15 years of playing it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to not do it. And I think that's an opportunity that we're kind of missing the point on with these games raising their prices, is there's just going to be people who decide, well, it's not worth it to me to spend this much money on this game, and we'll go to smaller indie titles and start playing them more. Terraria is a great example. I love that game, and I know it's still like an indie category, but like it's a massive game at this point. But that's one of those where the price is incredibly reasonable for the amount of enjoyment you get out of the game. And, is $80 worth it for an unfinished Mario Kart? I don't know personally. I probably won't be buying that. I'll just keep playing the one I have on my Wii or my original Switch. But if it is worth it to you to have the newest Mario Kart, then absolutely spend the money on it. Not at all saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying that if they're going to raise the prices, they should expect at least a percentage of people to no longer buy the games and instead move on to some smaller titles. Which brings me, I guess, to my second point of this, is that smaller titles are going to do fantastic over the coming years, especially as most companies are raising their prices in the way that Nintendo is. I think I saw recently that Rockstar actually raised the prices on Red Dead Redemption 2 very quietly in a few other countries. So you know, it's going to happen. They're going to continue to raise their prices, but the ones who aren't doing it just for the money, but genuinely doing it for the love of the game, I guess, well, they're going to have such a great time in this. This is a great example of, you know, I don't love capitalism. I feel like there are some flaws in our present day, you know, system that we've got going on, but this is when it flourishes, when companies get a bit too greedy and a bit too sure of themselves and are undercut by smaller companies who don't need as big a portion of the pie to stay afloat and are fine making good games for less money. I mean, I'm super excited to see where the development of these games comes out of, the direction of indie games as a whole. And who knows, maybe we'll see some resurgence in some old titles. I know Terraria is working on a second game. Subnautica's been really good. Maybe I think the newest one was kind of but maybe they'll have another one that's going to be really fantastic. It's just, you know, there are bright sides even when companies are trying to screw over their fan bases, which I think we've been seeing a lot of. And free games too. I mean, you know, no game is fully free. If you're not paying for it, you are the product. But Marvel Rivals, I think I've played more Marvel Rivals this year than I have any AAA game over the past several years. And that game was free. Obviously, you know, you can buy the skins or whatever, but I've not spent any money on that game. And I've gotten hundreds of hours of enjoyment out of it, playing with my friends, having nights where I've just sat there and, you know, played quick play for hours and hours. I feel like that's going to be a continuing trend, which, you know, that has some moral implications of itself with microtransactions, what that's doing to, you know, a gambling mindset. But I think Marvel Rivals does a fairly decent job of catering to the fan base, making enough money to get by, but also at the same time not trying to, I mean, you're not spending, you know, hundreds of dollars on the game or even $50 on the game. It's free and it's enjoyable. You know, I personally don't mind these companies raising the prices. Like I said, I don't play a ton of AAA games. If the prices were lower, I actually probably would play more AAA games, but I think more and more this is just going to spur a pretty spontaneous and massive development and, you know, lower cost indie titles that I'm excited for personally. You know, I feel that things, I feel like that's a bright spot in what has otherwise been quite a bit of negativity this year. So we will see. Well, thank you guys for watching. I want to say thank you for all the recent support on these videos. It has been mind-blowing to see any amount of people watching these. So, you know, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. All right, see ya.